Welcome back, everyone, to 15-Minute Discourse. Today, we're going really deep on a pretty fascinating topic, terraforming. Transforming planets to make them, livable for us humans, right? We've got research papers, some excerpts from books, and even some of your own notes to guide us. I know you're a pretty big space enthusiast, so
I am, yeah.
I think you're going to like this one.
Yeah, it's one of those topics that really captures the imagination.
Right.
Thinking about the future of humanity,
Yeah.
on a cosmic scale, it's really exciting.
Absolutely. And it's not just sci-fi fantasy anymore, right?
Yeah.
I mean, scientists and engineers are actually thinking about this stuff seriously.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So before we get ahead of ourselves, let's start with the basics. What is terraforming? Like, what does it actually involve?
Well, at its core, it's about changing a planet's environment, to make it more like Earth. So you're talking about creating a breathable atmosphere, suitable temperatures, and of course the big one, liquid water. And this is obviously a long-term project. We're talking centuries, maybe even millennia to pull this off.
I mean, it makes sense, right? I can only imagine the challenges involved in transforming a whole planet.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the biggest hurdles really depend on which specific planet you're talking about, but generally some of the common challenges are going to be, transforming the atmosphere itself, regulating the temperature, and, making sure there's enough water.
Right. Yeah, those are the big ones.
Yeah.
So let's start with atmosphere, I guess. I'm assuming it's not as easy as just, throwing a dome over a planet and calling it good, right? What are some of the things scientists are looking at for changing the atmosphere?
Yeah, no, it's way more complicated than just a dome.
I figured.
One approach is to try to release trapped gases that are already on the planet. Another is to import gases from somewhere else, like comets or asteroids. And then, you also have the possibility of using, like, complex chemical reactions to make the gases that we need.
Right. Right. So it's not just a case of, moving stuff around. It's also like straight up making what we need.
Yeah, exactly. Making it from scratch, that's the really challenging part.
Yeah, it just blows my mind, like just thinking about the scale of this.
Yeah, it's huge.
The whole planet we're messing with.
It is. Like, for
Yeah.
example, if you look at Venus, right? Venus has this super thick atmosphere, mostly carbon dioxide. To make it breathable, we'd have to find a way to remove or convert like massive amounts of that CO2. So it's not a small feat.
No, not at all. What about temperature then? Like, I know Mars is known for being pretty chilly. How do you even begin to warm up a whole planet like that?
Right. So for temperature regulation, there are some pretty interesting ideas out there. One is these giant orbital mirrors to reflect more sunlight down to the surface.
So like giant space heaters.
Exactly. Basically giant space heaters. Another is, introducing certain greenhouse gases to trap heat and warm up the atmosphere.
Oh, I see. So, I was reading about something called albedo modification, which, if I understand it right, is about changing the surface's reflectivity. Could that play a role in regulating temperature?
Absolutely. Albedo basically means how much light a surface reflects, right? So if
Yeah.
you can darken the surface of Mars, for instance, it could potentially absorb more of that solar radiation and gradually warm up.
That's really cool.
It is.
So we've got atmosphere and we've got temperature, but what about, the essential ingredient for life as we know it, water?
Right. Water. We can't forget water.
How do you even start to deal with that on planets that might not have much of it?
Yeah, well, luckily there are some potential solutions for that. Like one option is to import water from other places that have it, comets or icy moons, basically delivering giant ice cubes from space.
Giant ice cube delivery. I like it.
Yeah.
Another option is to melt any existing ice if the planet has any like polar ice caps. You could even potentially try to extract water from the atmosphere or even from underground.
Oh, I have heard about that. Yeah, those are possibilities, but they each come with their own problems, depending on what the planet is like.
I mean, it sounds like, for every solution, there's another set of challenges. That must be why this whole terraforming thing is such a long-term project.
Yeah, no quick fixes here, that's for sure. I think that's part of what makes it so fascinating, It forces us to think really long-term, think about solutions that could span generations.
Right.
It's a real testament to human ambition and ingenuity.
It's kind of inspiring in a way.
It is.
So speaking of ambition, let's get a little more specific. When we talk about targets for terraforming, Mars seems to be the most popular.
It is, yeah.
What is it about Mars that makes it such a good candidate?
Well, for one, it has some similarities to Earth. The day-night cycle is pretty close to ours, and there's evidence that there used to be water there. Plus, it's relatively close to Earth, astronomically speaking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, despite the challenges, Mars does hold some promise.
Yeah. What about other candidates then? What else is out there that we could potentially terraform?
Well, Venus is an interesting one. It's similar in size and gravity to Earth, which is a big plus, but it has that incredibly dense and hot atmosphere, which is a major hurdle to overcome.
Right, so Venus would need some pretty extreme makeover.
Yeah, some serious work.
Are there any other contenders on the list?
There are some even more ambitious ideas out there,
Okay.
like terraforming Mercury, the moon, or even some of the moons of the gas giants.
Yeah.
But those come with even bigger challenges like gravity, radiation, and just the sheer lack of resources.
It just blows my mind
Yeah.
to think we're talking about turning planets into places where humans could actually live, like the scale, the complexity of it all.
Yeah, it really stretches the imagination. And it's not just about the technical side of things either. There are some pretty profound ethical and philosophical questions we need to consider as well.
Right. That's a whole other layer of this, isn't it? But before we get into all that, I kind of want to get into the how of terraforming.
Okay.
Like, what are the actual methods, the technologies that scientists are talking about using?
Right, okay. Well, one idea that I find really fascinating is this concept of, get this, floating cloud continents on Venus.
Wait, hold on, cloud continents. That sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
I know, right? But there's actual science behind it. The idea is to use nitrogen, which is a lighter gas than the CO2 on Venus, to lift these massive platforms up above the scorching surface.
So you're essentially creating these, like, habitable zones in the atmosphere
Yeah.
above all the heat and the crushing pressure.
Exactly. These cloud continents could potentially have a much more temperate, Earth-like environment because they're shielded from the harsh conditions below.
Wow, it's mind-boggling.
It is.
It really highlights just how innovative we have to be with this whole terraforming thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're not just tweaking existing environments. We're talking about creating brand new ones from scratch.
That's right.
What other out there technologies are people thinking about? I've heard things about space elevators, orbital settlement.
Oh, yeah. Those are definitely concepts that come up a lot
Right.
when we talk about colonizing space. And they could totally play a role in making terraforming more realistic.
Okay, let's break those down a little bit. Space elevators first. I mean, I have a vague idea.
Yeah.
But how would those work in the context of terraforming?
So picture this. A structure that extends all the way from the planet's surface into space. Basically, a giant elevator to orbit.
That is wild.
Right, and it would allow us to transport materials and people so much more efficiently than using rockets.
Oh, I see. So instead of launching everything from Earth, they
Right.
could be getting stuff from asteroids or wherever and taking it straight to the planet we're working on.
Exactly, that's the idea. Space elevators could totally change the game in terms of logistics, making it way more practical and affordable to move those resources around.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
What about orbital settlements then? How do those fit in?
So those are basically like large, self-sustaining space stations in orbit around a planet. And they could act as a kind of base of operations for the whole terraforming effort, providing housing, research facilities, maybe even manufacturing.
So it's like a space-based command center
Yeah.
overseeing the transformation down below? That's a pretty amazing image.
It is. It really speaks to the potential for collaboration and innovation on a massive scale. Terraforming isn't just about the science and engineering. It's about reimagining how we live and work in space.
Yeah. Like, we're not just terraforming planets, we're kind of terraforming ourselves in a way too, right?
I like that, yeah.
We're evolving to meet this challenge.
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
It is.
This whole thing is just, it's layers upon layers of complexity and possibility. It's really amazing. We've only just scratched the surface here, but I already know this is going to be a lot for our listeners to think about.
Oh, for sure. It's one of those topics that sparks wonder and makes you think about the future of humanity in a whole new way.
And that's what we do here on 15-Minute Discourse, taking deep dives into the most fascinating topics that are shaping our world and beyond. So if you're enjoying this exploration of terraforming,
Which I hope you are.
make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking discussions.
It's kind of fascinating to think about, what's driving this whole idea of terraforming.
Yeah, what is it about turning other planets into places we can live that's so compelling?
I think it goes deeper than just the technical stuff, right? It's about human nature, our dreams, our aspirations as a species.
It's big picture stuff.
For some people, it's about survival. I mean, let's face it, we've got some serious challenges here on Earth. Climate change, resource depletion. Terraforming could be a way to ensure the survival of humanity, like A backup plan, a way to diversify where we live and protect our future.
It's like a cosmic insurance policy, spreading the risk a little.
But it's more than just survival, you know? There's this inherent human drive to explore, to push boundaries, to see what's out there. Terraforming is like the ultimate frontier, the chance to become a multiplanetary species, to really reach out into the
It
cosmos.
taps into that sense of adventure,
Totally.
that desire to discover new things, maybe even new life out there.
Absolutely. And think about it, it could help us answer some of the biggest questions.
Right.
What is our place in the universe? Are we alone? It pushes the limits of human knowledge and understanding.
Right. And then there's that hope that by tackling something as huge as terraforming, we'll learn things that can help us solve problems back here on Earth.
Exactly. Imagine what we could learn about sustainability, resource management, maybe even climate engineering by figuring out how to manipulate planetary environments on that scale.
It's like a giant planetary laboratory solving problems we haven't even thought of yet.
Exactly. It shows that sometimes the biggest challenges lead to the most groundbreaking solutions. And you can't deny the sheer wonder of it all. I mean, it's inspiring, right? It shows what humans are capable of when we dream big.
Yeah, it's definitely awe-inspiring.
We're talking about expanding our horizons, literally and figuratively, reimagining what's possible, thinking about the future of humanity on a cosmic scale. It's pretty incredible.
It really is. But we also have to talk about the ethics of all of this,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because it's not just about can we do it, but should we do it?
Right, we're talking about changing entire planets to meet our needs. And that comes with a huge responsibility to think about the consequences of our actions, especially in the long term.
Like, what if there's microbial life on a planet? Do we have the right to transform that environment, potentially disrupt, even destroy that life?
It's a big question, and scientists and ethicists are really grappling with it. Do we prioritize human life over other life forms? And if so, under what circumstances? These are tough questions with no easy answers.
And then there's the question of who gets to decide. Who has the authority to terraform a planet? I mean, we're seeing more and more private companies getting involved in space exploration. What role should they play compared to governments?
Exactly. And how do we ensure that if we do terraform, it benefits all of humanity, not just a select few? It's going to require international cooperation, transparency, a shared commitment to doing this ethically and responsibly. We need guidelines,
Okay.
governance structures, the whole nine yards.
So it's not just a science and technology issue, it's a social and political one, too.
Absolutely. It reflects our values, our priorities, and our vision for the future of humanity. And I think it raises questions about what it means to be human in a universe where we have the potential to shape entire worlds. It's humbling and awe-inspiring at the same time.
It really is. But let's step back from the philosophical side for a second and talk about the practical realities of terraforming.
We've been talking big picture stuff, but
Yeah.
there's the nitty-gritty of actually making it happen. And that's a whole other challenge.
We are talking about a project of unbelievable scale and complexity.
Oh, absolutely.
Where do you even begin to plan and execute something like that?
It's going to take an incredible amount of resources. Energy, new materials, advanced propulsion systems, life support systems that can work in really harsh environments, you name it. We're basically talking about creating a self-sustaining biosphere from scratch.
It's like building a whole new world.
It is. We need to understand how different life forms interact, how to balance atmospheric gases, how planetary systems work. It's going to take collaboration across so many different fields: biology, chemistry, engineering, even ethics.
A massive team effort.
And it's not going to happen overnight. It could take centuries, even millennia, to fully terraform a planet.
Which brings up the question of, responsibility to future generations. Do we have the right to start something that will have such a huge impact on people who haven't even been born yet?
Yeah, that's a big one. And how do we make sure the benefits are shared fairly, both between those future generations and between different groups of people here on Earth? These are questions we need to think about now as we start laying the groundwork for this whole endeavor. It's not just about transforming planets, it's about transforming ourselves, becoming more responsible, more sustainable, better at working together. It's about changing our relationship with the cosmos and creating a future where humanity can thrive among the stars.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, we need to really understand what we're getting into,
Yeah.
both the challenges and the opportunities.
Yeah, we need to proceed with caution, with humility, and with a deep respect for the balance of life, both here on Earth and out there in the universe.
We've covered a lot in this deep dive, from the nuts and bolts of changing atmospheres and regulating temperatures to the ethical considerations of planetary personhood and responsibility to future generations. We've talked about the dreams that drive us to even consider something as audacious as terraforming. from ensuring our survival to connecting with the cosmos on a whole new level. We've even touched on things like asteroid mining, space elevators, and spinning orbital settlements technologies that could revolutionize space exploration and make terraforming more than just a dream. But I think the biggest takeaway is this. Terraforming isn't just a science project. It's a reflection of who we are as a species and what we hope to become. It's about our desire to explore, our drive to push boundaries, our hope for a future where humanity can thrive among the stars.
It's a story that's still being written, and the choices we make today will determine how that story unfolds. It's a journey with huge challenges, but also some pretty inspiring possibilities. We've really only just started to explore what terraforming could be. Who knows what we'll discover in the future?
It definitely makes you think about the future of humanity in a whole new way, that's for sure. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the actual mechanics of changing a planet to the ethical questions to this whole vision of a future where humans live on multiple planets.
Yeah, and we've seen how terraforming isn't just about changing other planets. It's about pushing ourselves further, our knowledge, our technology, even how we understand what it means to be human.
Before we go, I want to bring it back to you, the listener. We've talked about all the science, the challenges, the ethics, the motivations for doing this incredible thing, but what do you think?
Imagine we actually did it. Successfully transformed Mars, let's say, into a place where people could live. Would you pack your bags and be one of the first colonists?
It's a big decision. What would you leave behind? What new challenges and opportunities would you face on a brand new world?
It's a choice that could shape not only your life, but the future of a whole civilization.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on this and everything else we've talked about. Leave a comment below. Let us know what parts of this whole terraforming idea really resonated with you.
And if this deep dive into planetary transformation has you hooked, don't forget to like and subscribe to 15-Minute Discourse for more explorations into the most fascinating topics out there.
Thanks for joining us on this amazing journey. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the unknown.